Okay, that's better for me too.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, let's do this thing.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so we'll start out with introducing, ourselves and our background. So I'll start off. So I'm Coach Brittany Mitchell, obviously founder of Heart and Soul Consulting, which is basically a sports psych private business. I work with athletes, teams, parents, coaches, all on the mental game, right? So a lot of it is really about educating people, teaching people about what the mental game even is, the science behind it, and then teaching them mental skills, right? Just like techniques and things like that to actually develop that mental toughness. Heart and Soul's been around for about 2 years now. Pretty exciting. But that's pretty much my background. I obviously have a master's degree in sports psych, so that's kind of my educational background. What about you?
Yeah, so for me, obviously I was a basketball player, as you promoted me in the video. I played in Spain, did some tour teams in Colombia, Mexico, Chile. Did some coaching as well when I graduated undergrad, coached at a junior college in Jersey and as well as a high school. And then, I worked at the NBA for a little bit. My journey kind of led me here, where I am right now, Miami. So I'm currently studying, what you graduated in, sports psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just trying to, make an impact and a difference as far as athletics is concerned and performance is concerned for the athlete from the mental side of the game, which is not very heavily looked upon as it
Mm-hmm.
should. So yeah, that's how I'm here.
Okay.
And
What's the background a little bit on the NBA thing you mentioned? What's the extent of that?
yeah, so for the NBA, that was actually last year I worked there. And what I did was I was a league operations assistant. So it's pretty much I worked out of where the replay center is in Secaucus, New Jersey. And like I just handled everything from the operational standpoint. So just make sure they have different rules about, players, dress code violations, decorum stuff.
Hmm.
And, just make sure everything at the arena was going as it's supposed to, so lighting, the safety issues under the basket. I dealt with different things as far as, technical fouls. I would have to log different plays. And then they also were big into hustle stats, which are like some analytical basketball type of stats. So I was one of the loggers for that. So it's like not your typical stats for basketball, not like a points and assists, blocks,
Wow.
but more so on the lines of loose ball recoveries, shot contests, box outs, things like that. So
Hmm.
a little bit more on the analytical side, but things that teams actually look at heavily nowadays, and people make a lot of money off of those little things that are
Right.
being noticed. So yeah, it was a
Wow.
pretty good experience.
That's a really amazing experience. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. Before we jump into the next part, obviously I have a basketball background as well. Didn't get as far as, David here, but I've coached it, played it, I've reffed it, trained it for a little bit. So basketball is really kind of my primary, sport background, and it's what I love the most. But, sport is sport. All right.
Absolutely.
So, we kind of covered it a little bit, but, maybe if we missed anything as far as kind of defining what mental training is, um, like I said, I think a lot of people kind of understand what the mental game is kind of on the surface, or they've heard the coach talk about it, or maybe, they've heard about mama mentality, things like that. But I think what we want to communicate to the viewers is that mental training really is a science, and it's not just a pre-game speech or kind of like a rah-rah thing in the locker room, but it's really something you can sit down each day and integrate it into your physical training and really start changing structures in your brain. Like it gets down to the detail as far as how we can change our perception of things and our ability to be resilient in certain situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's definitely like a program, just like any other type of training you would do. Anything you to
Absolutely.
add to that, David?
Yeah, and I mean, I like the main important thing too as well is that it's not just for athletes, it's for human enrichment, it's for
Yes.
performance. So, the things that we're talking about today, not necessarily has to apply to a basketball player. It can apply to a salesman, anybody that that has a job regarding performance. It
Right.
can help them. So yeah, mental skills training is big. And like you said, it's not about the rah-rah, not about, who can be mentally tough. It's more to it besides that. So, hopefully, we can continue to cover more topics and, inform people what it is that, all that entails.
Yes, I would second that 100%. I'm glad you mentioned that because really, I mean, we think about performance, we're all performing all the time, really, in one way or another, you know, in our relationships at work, obviously as a student or, you know, whatever you're doing, investors. So that's huge. And kind of going off of that, obviously the benefit outside of sport, you know, being resilient, being able to bounce back from mistakes, you know, all types of things that we're going to be talking about. This is stuff that really can enhance just life in general, you know, and for me, I think if, you know, I want to help athletes, you know, win titles and get rings or whatever the heck, you know, win championships. But at the end of the day, you know, that's not really what's most important, you know.
Hmm.
So this definitely can it's doesn't have any borders. Mental training is basically life training in a way. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Okay. All right. So what are we talking about today? So we're talking about basically being present-minded. What does it mean to have a present-minded focus? And you know, you could talk about that in different ways, right? Being in the zone, maybe, but basically, it's just staying present in the moment, which is something that um, I mean, it definitely has a lot of benefits to it, but it's not really thought about as much, I think, especially in basketball or sport in general. So we want to kind of find that, and then we'll kind of unpack that.
Right.
So, David, you want to start maybe with your kind of understanding of that? What does it mean to be present-minded when
Yeah.
competing?
So being present-minded, being presently focused, however you want to label it, for me is just, you know, focus on whatever the task is at hand. So, you know, like
Sure.
if I'm tying my shoe, you know, I'm just focused on that. I'm not worried about anything around me. Also, I can define it as, you know, not having like having a non-judgmental awareness about the whole thing. So I'm not really judging where I am. And I'm very, you know, intentional about that non-judgmental awareness. So
Hmm.
that's how I would define it. You know, just being where you are in that moment of time, not letting anything outside of what you're currently doing be a determining factor of how you feel or affect what you're currently doing.
Definitely. So I would second that. You know, you might have heard it said, you know, be where your feet are at. And I think, again, in sport, but outside of life, I mean, how many times per day are we really being present? I mean, I struggle with that big time, big time. And
Tough.
but it's really, you know, not worrying about the past and not worrying about the future. Just what is the task at hand? What are you being called to do in the moment? And being able to do that to your best ability really determines on, you know, it's based on your ability to stay focused on the present moment.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and honestly, like, you know, focus is always a choice. You know, you always can choose what you want to focus on. Now, the real question is, you know, are you focusing on the right things?
right,
So,
right. And a lot of different things can distract us from that present moment, which is what we want to transition to next. So we can be basketball specific if you want, you know, but since it's our background, so let's talk about a little bit of a few common distractions that maybe we run into playing, coaching, or just observing as mental skill coaches. So for me, I think for one, definitely is kind of emotions. I see that happen all the time, whether that's you know, as a reaction to a mistake, a missed shot, a turnover, something your coach says, something your teammate says, the crowd reaction, really anything kind of emotional can definitely cause somebody to step out of that present moment. And again, there's different triggers for that. That's what comes to mind for me. What about you?
for me, I would say like focusing on an outcome. So like if we're talking about
Okay.
basketball or we talk about sports in general, we could say like focusing on winning. So whenever we're in a game or a situation where we're that's where our focus is, we get lost on everything what it takes to even get to that point. So, you know, we forget about the journey to how we get there, the process of how we get there. So that would be something that would take us away. And I can talk from personal experience as well that, you know, even playing overseas, you know, for me, like you said, you know, everyone it's not easy to be presently focused. And when I was playing, you know, there were a lot of outside factors for me. You know, for me wanting to win, because obviously when you're overseas, you have to win for you to get another contract. And then on top of that, you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out, you know, what can I do now to get a better contract for the next season. So all those things that I focused on, I don't think helped me or help my performance, because I'm worried on everything else except for, okay, where am I at right now? You know, where this is practice. How do I get better right now in practice? You know, what am I focusing on right now, and what's important right at this moment? So sometimes we get caught in the whirlwind of life and everything else, and we really focus on what it's important now. So
Yeah, that's a big point that I've been thinking about lately, because you think about professional athletes, whether it's, in the league or playing overseas, or even student athletes who are trying to get that scholarship, right? It's all about, a lot of times money is on the line, a contract is on the line, a scholarship is on the line, and that can be very distracting, and it messes you up in the moment. And I think that's just something to think about, that a lot of times, what really is on the line for you. Okay, you understand what that is. Now, is that kind of distracting at this moment? Is it keeping you outside of the present moment? So that's something to think about. But like you said, it's about the process, right? So that's what we want to be, right? That's what we want to get, the contract or the scholarship. Okay, cool, right? But what are the small steps that you need to focus on to get there? What are the present moment situations and games where you want to stay focused? So again, it's basically about the process. So that's something to really think about, for sure. Cool. So again, and that's basketball specific. If anybody else is on here and you play a different sport, that can be something you want to kind of reflect on. But really, no matter what you're doing, there's probably going to be something that's going to tend to pull for your attention away from that present moment, away from that possession, that play, whatever you might be in.
yeah, and I think too, like, pertaining to anything other than sports or just life in general, is that a lot of times when people have, like, you bring it back to those emotions, when you have those times where, you have a failure or you have a difficulty, sometimes we get so caught up in the past, and we just need to learn how to just let go. And when we let go, that kind of enables us to be in that present type of moment, that present where we are, like you said, where our feet are right now. So just gotta, learn how to let go.
Hey, geez, so I'm about to post a video on this in a little, probably in a few days, but that's what I've been learning, right? I haven't been competing for a number of years now, but I think, kind of looking back, I think how you kind of live life tends to kind of translate into how you perform, and how you perform kind of translate to life, right? Can you let go of mistakes, right? I think that's just so huge. And I struggle with that personally. And I kind of think back, kind of realize I did kind of struggle with that when I was competing, but man, that's such a big one. And it definitely, is just throughout life and different situations that we face. It's all about mental toughness and resiliency, and just in general. So that's a good point. I like that. So we can transition now into kind of the applied stuff, right? So we've talked about what does it mean to be present-minded, and common mistakes that take us out of that moment. Cool beans, right? We understand that now, but specifically, how can we actually train ourselves, and techniques that we can rely on in these moments to make sure that we're doing what we need to do, right? So I guess I'll start off, and we can kind of go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So for one, mindfulness, right? So or deep breathing, right? Either one. Maybe you're familiar with mindfulness, maybe you're not. It's kind of more popular nowadays in sport. But we talked about it recently. It's basically like a meditation practice, right? It's basically the ability to be in the present moment and have kind of a non-judgmental attitude towards your thoughts and your emotions, right? More kind of just observing those things, right? And we do that by basically, it's like a deep breathing technique that people practice, and the science behind it is pretty incredible. They've seen people who practice this over a certain amount of time. They see that actual areas in their brain change, right? So areas in the brain responsible for emotions and reactivity, things like that. That structure actually it gets smaller, right? So it's pretty crazy. But anyways, that's basically one technique I would say, and using the breath to anchor yourself. I guess to make it pretty simple, right? So in the moment, during competition, or when you're performing, right? Let's say, I miss a shot, right? Or I, have a turnover, something like that. And naturally we want to react to that, whether it's getting frustrated, getting irritated, or just kind of getting down on ourselves, right? So being aware of that reaction, but using the breath, right, kind of takes our focus from being external, right? So I'm taking a deep breath, and I'm kind of focusing on, just for a split second, right? Because you're in the game and things like that. But for a split second, using the breath to anchor yourself to kind of focus on inwardly, just for a second, right? So I take that deep breath, all right, and I'm on to the next moment, right? It's really anything to kind of get yourself back to that present moment. And I think the breath is one thing that could be used, because for one, it's a constant. It's always there, and really it's more of an internal focus when we focus on that.
Right.
David, on to you.
Like for me too, I would say that like piggybacking off what you said, definitely like the whole mindfulness and deep breathing. I mean, because when you breathe, your breath is present. So whenever
There we
you
go.
focus on your breath, it's bringing you back to that present state. Another thing is too, like we touched on, like being present is not something that's easy. So a lot of people like they want to go through that process, they want to go through that journey, but they get mad at themselves and they beat themselves up, and then they start to have talk bad about themselves, and it's like, okay, what do you do now? So maybe just having some positive self talk
There
to
we go.
take away from that negative self talk. So that way, you just okay. You're letting the same concept. You're letting go. All right. You're accepting whatever the past was, and now you're just being able to move on and move forward. So that's definitely
Mm.
something that I would say as well. And then too, like when we talked about focusing on winning and things that can take you out of it, it's just like you accept the past, but now let's reject the future. So
Wait,
let's
say
not
that
worry
again.
about.
Say that
I
again.
said accept the past and reject the future. So we're not really getting too far in the head and too advanced of where we want to be. Yeah, it's good to have those goals in mind and you're clear about those goals. And that's something also too that flows into getting into the zone and all that stuff. But at the same time, we don't want to get too caught up in it to the fact that it's messing up where we want to get to and how we get there.
I like that. Definitely. Yeah. I'll just add my 2 cents and then I'll go to the next point. But I think self-talk, like you said, I definitely agree with that 100%. I think, we as humans, I think we constantly have a dialogue with ourselves. At least I do. But all day long, we're saying something to ourselves, right? And I think a lot of times athletes and just individuals in general aren't aware of really what they're saying to themselves, right? It's something that's kind of unconscious, like we're not aware of it. So this is kind of an interesting topic for some athletes to start trying to be more observant of those thoughts, right? In certain situations or during practice or whatever, and just be like, wow, like did I really just say that to myself, or kind of what my attitude is towards certain situations. And I think that's the starting point. So you become aware of what those kind of automatic thoughts are, and then we could start building on trying to attack those and reframe them and things like that.
hmm
Um,
and
so
all about the whole awareness things too. To piggyback off what you're saying, it's like ask yourself, what's important right now. Like so for basketball, let's say I miss a shot, right? I miss a shot instead of getting down like, oh, it felt good, I should have made it, or I missed it. Now I'm worried about, oh, my coach may take me out. But what's important at that moment right now? Is it that you missed the shot or made the shot, or is it to get back on defense? Like
right,
what's
right.
important? So like just being aware and having that awareness to it and just being able to ask yourself that in a non-judgmental way and you able to answer it. You may not be the greatest at it at first and you may struggle. It's perfectly
Mm.
fine. But if you just have the awareness to ask yourself those questions, I think it will go a long way and you definitely get better at, being in the present.
Right, right. So that's an example. What's important now, right, is kind of, I guess I think of it as kind of a mistake recovery technique. So, um, that's one thing you can kind of basically kind of just like statements or questions you can ask yourself in the moment to refocus yourself. So what's important now? But then on top of that, I think one thing that I like too is kind of having a focal point, right? So this is something, whether it's something you're wearing or something on the field or on the court, that's kind of like a fixed point that I can kind of direct my attention to for a split second, and that object or that line on the court or the word I have, wrapped around my, wrist or on my wrist tape or whatever can be a reminder for me to kind of refocus. And again, it's a split second thing. So I've worked with athletes who have like the right like focus on their cleats, right? Or they'll have like a wristband or something like that with some type of, inspirational, phrase or word on it, right? And it's just something they go to when they need to refocus or they feel themselves kind of getting distracted, right? Or getting too reactive. So that's something that you can do. That's something I like. Focal points are important. It's unique to you, right? Something that's going to work for
Right.
you and something you can consistently go to.
Absolutely. I like that.
Yeah. Anything else that comes to mind for you? Self-talk, breathing, focal points.
Um, I know, yeah, just like with the whole focus thing too, just another thing is being able just to refocus quickly. So like when you get in the position where, you know you're losing your focus, instead of getting, caught up into it, just being able to have some real quick like next play speed, like sort of
There we
say.
go.
So like, you know, like, so you want to be able to refocus within, let's say, like, give yourself a goal. Maybe you're starting off, you might say like 2 seconds, but ideally, you know, you want to get it real to the point where it's like less than a second, you know, where you're able to notice where you are and that you're not focused on where you should be. And then it's like, okay, what's important? And I'm back to where I need to be. So, yeah, just like you said, it's all about refocusing and getting back to that present state of mind and what's happening to you at the particular moment.
Yeah. I mean, I think I want our viewers to know. So we've laid out a few techniques that they can look into and practice, but I want them to know this is easier said than done. Right? This is not something that can happen overnight, or, you know, you turn on this IG live and then tonight, you know, you have a game and you're just like, boom, just ready to go. Like this, like we said, this is something that has to be trained consistently, right? So, you know, as an athlete, you train physically all the time, you know, you train for a number of years, right? So, you know, jumping into mental training, you can't expect it to be like some magic pill that just works overnight or over just a week, right? You've put in years to be this great of an athlete. You're gonna have to put in some extra time to be, you know, mentally tougher and more resilient and be able to refocus quicker and all that kind of stuff. So don't get frustrated with it. You know, don't give up on it. But really just understand it's a process, and it's a process that is totally worth it because it's going to elevate your game to a whole nother level because, you know, you're adding it to what you're doing. But that's kind of my final thoughts, David.
Yeah, and I agree. And like I said, it all goes back to that positive self-talk. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's going to be tough. So, you know, don't get down on yourself. You know, don't say, oh, this is tough. Oh, you know, don't worry about that. I mean, if this is something that you really want to, you know, incorporate into your lifestyle, because I'm not even going to say like when you play, into your lifestyle, because this is a lifestyle. You have to make a conscious decision, a conscious effort to really incorporate this into your daily living. So if you want to do that, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a journey. But, you know, how do you get through that? You know, so, you know, talk
Yeah.
positive words about yourself, you know, speak positive affirmations over yourself. So that way, you know, even when it's tough, because it will be, you know, you're able to bounce back. And
Yep. 100%. Cool. Well, I think that's all we've got for our viewers. I think before we log off, you know, kind of sharing our contact information and things like that. If you guys, you know, viewers, if you're interested in mental training or want to learn more about it, both of our, you know, DMs are open, and we're more than happy to answer any questions you have or get you kind of locked in on some type of mental training program that we have. For me, I'll say obviously follow my main business account, Heart and Soul Consulting. I have content weekly, almost daily on there for you guys just to learn and understand what the mental game really is about. And then I have a new project coming out called the Mental Minute, which is something that is going to be totally different, but I think something very powerful for athletes of all levels. And basically it's mental training through your headphones, right? So it's going to be a project that basically is going to be released on all music platforms. It's me basically as your mental performance coach speaking to you over a hip hop beat. And this is tracks and things that you want to play and really lock into during the preparation stages, when you're in the locker room, when you're in your dorm or on the bus to games, right? This is me just really helping you start visualizing success, using the breath to anchor yourself, right? Just getting excited for the pregame moments and confidence, all that kind of stuff. These are topics that are going to be on the project. So something I want you guys to look into. Go ahead and follow that IG account at the Mental Minute. Release dates and the trailer is going to be coming out this week, so look forward to that. David, any plugs for your stuff?
yeah, just follow my page. Right now, that's all I have. Real D Nice 11. That's REALDNYCE 11.
Yep.
And I do have some projects that I'm coming out with and working on as far as like the content is concerned. So just stay tuned. I'm sure that we will have another live video before then. So I have
Yep.
some more information to provide when that day comes sooner.
But yeah, I mean, I think at this, you know, at this point we can just take some questions in the DMs or in any other kind of way, email, whatever. But we do want to let you guys know, I think it's something we're going to do more of, right? So we're probably going to expand on different topics and just, you know, open up. And maybe we can do a Q&A at a later point too, right? Like an IG Live doing Q&As and stuff like that.
Right.
So that'll be helpful.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
But yeah, but that's all I've got.
All right.
Sounds great. All right. Thanks so much, David. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me and having me on. I appreciate it, and definitely
Yeah.
let's keep the ball rolling. Let's keep the momentum going with this, and you know, let's change lives.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. This is fun. All right. All right. I'll catch you later.
All right, take care.
See you.